Okay, here we go again. I think it's just becoming a viral tweet debunking page or channel at this point, right? Because I see these things and I'm automatically skeptical when I see viral tweets now, right? Especially when you know what the narrative is. Just because the narrative building that's going on here, it's an anti-capitalist, it's an anti-United States, it's an anti-Western narrative, right? And it's being propped up by massive CCP bot farms, right? I mean, China has high rises, entire high rises dedicated with thousands and thousands and thousands of people that just make fake accounts on social medias, on Instagrams, on Twitters, on whatever, to do exactly that, to promote this communist utopia, to promote this CCP dogma crap, right? While also trashing the West, trashing capitalism, trashing the United States. And that explains why this guy Calvin here, nothing against him, right? But 5,000 followers, proud communist, right? Gets 105,000 likes on this, day and a half old post that is completely false. Not true at all. Let's break this down a little bit, okay? Homelessness is a policy decision. Finland ends homelessness, buys slats for homeless people, saves 15,000 euros per homeless person per year because it's cheaper this way. Not a real article. You think just on how this is literally how a lot of articles are structured, right? They have the title, they have the little source, they have pictures, and then they have the article. This is not real. Cannot find this anywhere. I don't know if this global positive news thing is like an Instagram account maybe that they found this on, but this is not true. So off the bat, not true. Finland has not ended homelessness. Not even close, to be honest. Have they made progress? Sure. And we're gonna break it down a little bit more. But on the surface, it's not true. So again, well-intentioned people, I believe. A lot of these people are well-intentioned, okay? But you're never going to get progress in the United States or anywhere else for that matter by fabricating stories, by lying to your audience to promote your narrative. It's not going to work that way. And that's literally the foundation of communism everywhere it's ever been. Lie to the people to promote the state, to promote the party, to promote the leadership. It doesn't work. It never has worked, and it's not because it's not real communism. It is real communism. China is real communism. It was real Marxism. And all the problems that China had were because of their adoption of Marxist policies, right? And all the success they've had in recent years as bringing a lot of their citizenry out of poverty, out of abject poverty, because they still have a ton of poverty in China, but a lot of the progress has been made because of their abandonment of these Marxist policies, right? But again, I'm not really kind of trying to trash Calvin here because it's the entire narrative of this group of thought, right? Because if you even scroll down a little bit, it doesn't take you long to get to a bot. Crypto Quinn, not, I would say, high percentage chance that this is not a real count. Anti-fascist, Marxist, I mean, just all the buzzwords. Homelessness is not a policy choice; it's a deliberate consequence of the capitalist system. But no, please keep thinking that if we just get a good politician in there to change the policies without addressing the root causes, all the problems of capitalism will go away. Oh, but then Brian, this seems like a real guy. But then what does Brian say? Why not treat manageable symptoms while going after the disease? What's the disease? Capitalism is the disease, right? This is the narrative that I'm trying to push back against because I think it's a trash narrative that's going to lead to trash places like it always has in history. A lot of these people are historically illiterate. And I would say it's kind of through no fault of their own, right? Because they just want to see a better world. So I share their desire for progress and for a better world. But you're not going to get there with these trash ideas that have failed miserably every single time they've been tried. But I want to break this down a little bit more because I want to say I want you to know that I'm not full of shit when I'm talking about these things, right? Let's go to the Finland report here, 2021 homelessness report in Finland. Well, they started this whole this whole housing first. I was about to say America First. They started this whole housing first program in 2007. I'd imagine as a result of the global financial crisis, right? Because they started to have an uptick in homelessness after, a couple decades of a nice decline. But also you have to understand what homelessness is. Homelessness is more large. It's a largely encompassing. Fuck, what am I trying to say here? It's more than what you would think of as traditional homelessness. We're not talking just about people on the street, right? We're not talking about people in dilapidated tent housing on Venice Beach or in the streets of San Francisco. That is, to me, is traditional homelessness. But that's not all of what homelessness encompasses, right? And you'll see here, it's homeless families, temporary living with friends and relatives. That's the bulk of it. In institutions, that's not something we consider to be traditional homelessness. What traditional homelessness is to me, and to probably many of you, is outside in temporary shelters, hostels, right? Hostels, and homeless families, right? These two are much more indicative of what you see like on the streets, when you have beggars on the street, when you have people in dilapidated tents on the street. That's traditional homelessness, right? So how has Finland done with this policy? Well, this is a bar graph. I'm going to get the actual figures in a second here, but this is a bar graph. So it looks like we've had a nice decline since it started in 2007, right? This whole homeless family seems to have gone away completely, a little purple. But also, it's all important to note, there's 5 million people in Finland. There's 360 million people in the United States, 50 different states, all with individual policies, right? So to act like we can just simply replicate what Finland's doing it's indicative of all of these, lefty type arguments of like, oh, the Scandinavian countries are so great, they're so great, we should just do what they do. No, we're not going to do what they do. They're homogenous, they're incredibly racist, they're incredibly xenophobic, and they have policies that work for small amounts of people, but have never been tried at scale, and if they have, they failed miserably. Anyways, that doesn't mean we shouldn't try to tackle homelessness, right? I'm not saying we shouldn't. I'm just saying the narrative that's being built here, that this is a capitalist problem, right? Evil capitalism. It's like, no, that's just not true. Let's break it down a little further, right? So if you go into the actual figures, so remember what I said. This is the traditional standard of homelessness, right? What we traditionally think of as homelessness. 2007, 1,500 people. 2020, 1,200 people. That's about a 20% decline in traditional homelessness. That is a good thing. But to act as if Finland has abolished homelessness, that's what I'm saying. Like the narrative is false on its face, right? But then if you go back to his tweet, he talks about, he shares this video by the Gravel Institute, how socialists solved the housing crisis. And it's a whole fucking 10-minute video with this guy talking about how housing prices are so unaffordable and like the nice, one of their favorite stats they're using right now is, oh, in 96% of U.S. counties, you can't afford a house on your own with minimum wage. I'm like, yeah, I know you can't, because that's not what the minimum wage is for. Minimum wage is for teenagers. It's your first job to get your foot in the door. And almost every job in each state pays well above the state and the federal minimum wage. Almost every single one. The vast majority of jobs. So to act like, oh, they can't afford on a minimum wage, I know they can't. But the people that are buying homes don't live on minimum wage. Or that are getting housing do not live on minimum wage. Right? Anyways. But in the Gravel Institute, the whole how socialists solve housing crisis, what does he base this on? Austria. Right? Because Austria adopted, nearly communist policies before they got taken over by the fascists in World War II. And they do have a pretty good social safety net, right? So I'm not going to shit on Austria either. But to prop up Austria as like this beacon, right, that just proves that these social democracies are way better and that capitalism is evil and greedy. Interesting. That's weird, because why does Austria have identical homelessness to the United States? And he specifically talks about Vienna, the capital of Austria, right, as this beacon of social housing, right? It's so great. 70% of all the homeless people in Austria live in Vienna. Okay? So it's like they can't even make coherent arguments to further their point, right? I mean, it's false every step of the way. And I'm not saying we don't need progress. I'm not saying we shouldn't push for progress. But if you think we're going to get there by manufacturing these narratives and fabricating these stories, fabricating statistics, nitpicking statistics, to make it seem like, oh, capitalism is evil, oh, it's so bad, we need to get rid of it, or we'll never solve any problems ever. It's like you're literally buying into Chinese Communist Party talking points. And go live there. If you think it's so great, just go even look how they're living. Look how they're living in China. It's like, why is this your beacon? Why is this your North Star for what a good, high-quality life is for the less advantaged, right? It's like, what are the lesser advantaged people in China's life like? They're living in one-room homes with 10 families. It's not even a room. It's not even like centered off or cordoned off rooms. They're living with 10 families and one 10 by 10 concrete slab with a tin roof over their head. It's like to hold them up and to promote that party as like the beacon of, oh, what we could be, right? It's like, come on, guys. And I know there's a lot of like socialist types that are like, no, communism's not good, but it's socialism is 2 steps away from communism, right? Social democracy, social safety nets. I'm for a lot of those types of policies, right? Using reasonable taxpayer money, a reasonable amount of taxpayer money to fund reasonable policies that provide or produce better outcomes, okay? That makes sense to me. But again, you're not going to get there by lying to people. So that's all I got. Like the video if you like it. Subscribe if you want. I'll do a lot of these debunking type videos, but that's all I got.